Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of the African Music Library Instrument Discussion. This is where we talk about variety of African instruments and also lean on those that double down as genres. I'm your host, Kosiso, and today we'll be talking about a very interesting instrument with a lot of history and significance, I would say. We're talking about the ney. So the ney is an end-blown flute made of reed and is predominant in North Africa, Western Asia, Eastern Europe, and the Middle East. Also, just to also mention, the ney is one of the oldest musical instruments used in Egypt, and the person that plays the ney is called a neizin in Farsi, which is a predominant language in the Middle East, and called a nai in Arabic. And also, just a little bit of information before we get into the main discussion. The Ney is also associated with the Sufi religion. Also composed of the Mevlevi order, and one of the first known Nazains from this Sufi religion is called Mevlana Jeremy. He's also a Sufi poet, and I think he's also part of the pioneers of the Mevlevi order because whenever you hear the Sufi or the Wailing Dervish, you always hear the poet Rumi. And he always spoke about the ney, which is why I'm mentioning it, as part of the introduction to this instrument. He always spoke about the ney as a man longing for unity with his homeland, after his separation. He, kind of explains it as just in a religious metaphor, a soul separated from God. So the reed is that soul, and it being separated from the reed bed and used to make an instrument. So the sound that comes from the ney is said to be someone like a whisper, a longing to be reunited to where he belongs or it belongs. So that's just a little intro into what we are talking about. As you can see, it has somewhat deep significance with the Sufi people. But before we get into that, let me introduce to you some of the voices you'll be hearing during the course of this conversation today. First, we have someone we already know, Emmanuel Ogala, the president of the African Music Library, and Just Lee. And we also have with us Onasanya, who is the director of programs for the African Music Library. We have Moyo Emmanuel, who is the lead for the QA at Just Play. And then we also have with us today Ikechukwu Okoro, who is also part of the QA team for Just Play Music. Please say hello to our listeners.
Hello, everyone. My name is Emmanuel. I'm happy to be here.
Hi everyone, Ikechukwu. So happy to be here.
Hi everyone, good day. My name is Anu. I'm looking forward to the conversation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, guys. Really appreciate you coming in to, talk to us about this instrument from the research and the knowledge that you have prior to this conversation. So, looking forward to an exciting conversation with you guys. So let's get down to why we're here. And you know how we do it. We usually start from the top. Let's talk about history, origins before we get into significance and a little bit of questions that we have for today. So we're starting with the history. Let's start with Ikechukwu. Ikechukwu, what can you tell us about the history of the Ney instrument?
Okay, what from my research, I was able to see that it's from, like you mentioned earlier, It's from the Middle Eastern or Northern African region of yeah, and it's one of the oldest, one of their oldest instruments in their history, and from records that it actually dates back to like 4,500 years, the ancient Egypt and Mesopotamian area. It also played a significant or even diverse role in music, or even classical or court traditions, or even folk traditions. You could find it was a revered instrument that could be found in the Middle East, like I mentioned earlier, North Africa, even Central Asia, around the formerly Persian, which we know as Iran today, or Turkey. And yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much, Ikechukwu. It's interesting you mentioned about the different roles that this instrument plays in different cultures where they're found. When you talk about the folk traditions, the court traditions, and also, like I mentioned at the intro, the religious connection it has with the Sufi people. Very interesting, and that's something we are going to, be talking about more later on in the conversation. But let's hear from other team members. Let's hear what you came across during the course of your research about the history and the origin of this instrument. Let's hear from you, Anna. Welcome.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Thank you, Ikechukwu, for that insight. Yes. So the interesting thing is that I think I will start with before I talk about the origin and zeroing into one of the origin. I must mention that the Ney fleet, though some people call it Ney, that's Nay or Ne, Nei. So different names, different culture, and I know Ikechukwu has talked about the Persian origin, but I must say that I just want to zero in one of the history. But before I talk about one of the origin, I must say that the Ney fleet has different variants. So we have them in the Persian culture, which Ikechukwu has mentioned. We have them in the Sufi music, Arabic music. We also have the Turkish variant of it. And then we have the Middle Eastern variant of it. But I will zero in a bit on the Turkish one, or will I say the Sufi one, the history of the name in the Sufi religion. So and take a quick journey to the Ottoman Empire. So during the time of the Ottoman Empire, there existed a form of mysticism, let me put it like that, which was also called the Ottomans. And the belief was that one could travel a particular path and become a perfect human being or a saint, or you merge or you achieve a union with God or divine truth. So there was this belief about that, saying that a human being could actually travel along a particular path and then achieve perfection, which most times people will say nobody's perfect, but you can actually, or sainthood, and then also achieve a union with divine truth or divine God. So it was said that the Ney flute had a very primary role in achieving that, and that is soft, peaceful sound now helps people in their journey. The way it's being played, the sound when it's being played softly and peacefully, like not the haunting that flute usually comes with, but when it's being played peacefully or softly, that it helps people that's in that belief system. It actually helps people to be able to journey in that, or will I say, accompany them in that journey of uniting with divine truth. And then gradually this belief system gradually over the years now evolved into Sufi music. So the Ney's role in this history, or will I say in this origin, is that is actually the sound that represents the longing or the dense love that the person has, that you eventually feel when you are uniting with God. So it actually helps you stir up that love, that dense love, that unique love that you're trying to, that longing you're trying to achieve in that belief system, in you uniting with the divine truth or with God. So it helps stir it up. So that's why you can see that later on he also comes into playing the trance. So gradually this belief system began to evolve and became a religion. And then with it, the Ney flute now became prominent in the Sufi ritual, because people are actually using it actually to stir up that longing, that love, to be able to unite with God or divine truth and become united with it to become a perfect person. So that was essentially the role of the Ney. And then it's called the Anatolian mysticism. So that's what the Ney flute, in terms of the Ottoman Empire, that was the origin. Its role was essentially just a flute, but it had a religious, or will I say, a very strong, how will I put it, paranormal, let me put it, or paranormal, yes, role in helping people travel that spiritual journey to now unite and become a perfect person. So aside that also, the Ney also, interestingly, just like what you talk about the Oja flute, in another region, in another community, it's now in the Turkish history, just like what you have with the Oja flute, that you said that it has healing properties. The Ney flute actually also is said to have healing properties. So it was actually used to treat psychiatric patients. Interestingly, from time immemorial, it's been played to, I don't know how it works, but it's actually used to treat psychiatric patients. And then you're seeing another origin of it, that it had a medicinal, we've seen that it had a religious, a religious role origin. Now we are now seeing also that it had, in time memorial, in the Turkish religion or Turkish culture, it was actually played for psychiatric patients, and it helps them to calm their nerves and the healing process that they are supposed to flow through, helping them to decrease anxiety. Well, I don't know whether it's schizophrenia, but I don't know whether it's psychosis, but it actually helps them decrease anxiety, which is known to be one of the symptoms, or will I say one of the signs of psychosis. And then also it helps with cognitive abilities, helping in improving cognitive ability. So those are two things in terms of their origin. And then one more thing I also like to mention also is that its origin in the Persian Empire. So now its origin in the Persian Empire, it's more of how will I put it? It's more of royalty. It's more of folklore. It takes the role of folklore, being part of, but it's not been founded, because that culture, I must say that it's now an archaeological artifact, their culture, but also it's been traced back also to Egypt, saying that some of these Ney flutes are being found in the pyramids of the pharaohs. So also, you can also see that it has a role, probably maybe afterlife, because most times the pyramid actually are like their tomb to prepare the pharaoh for afterlife, all that he needs and all that. So that means that he also has a role minus the religious role that we've talked about. It also seems to have a role which is not founded because, as I said, it's now more of an archaeological artifact because it's been found in the pyramids, and then also it's been found in the relics or the archaeological relics for the Persian Empire. But most of it has been synonymous with folklore, and then probably society gathering, being the heart of playing, singing ceremonies in those times. So I think I will stop there at this point. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Anu. That's a very interesting thought, especially the part about the Nay having somewhat healing powers. Honestly, I might not have come across it during the course of my research, but then I think just listening to the sound of the instruments kind of brings that relaxing feeling. But before we go, let's hear what Emmanuel has to say.
Yeah, thank you very much, Anu, for that deep dive. Uh, what I want to say is not much of a contribution, but a question. And yeah, do acknowledge that listening to Nay has that very calming feeling, and I could see how it could, bring upon healing to people who listen to it. And like most other African instruments that we've seen, the it usually has strong spiritual ties, and this is similar to Oja, which also has that strong in the Igbo culture, has strong spiritual ties. But my question is, and I don't know, I wasn't able to find an answer to this, especially with the history and origin of the Ney. I know it's popular within that Middle East and North Africa region, but if you see, there's this slight difference between the Egyptian Ney versus the others. All other nays have like 6 holes in front, but the Egyptian ney has 5 in front. So, in terms of origin, which came before? Was it originally an Egyptian instrument, an African instrument that made its way into into Asia, into the Arabic world, or did it come the other way around?
Okay. I think it's the other way around, because the first, if you want to look at the dating, the dates, it's dates later, or will I say earlier, over 5,000 years in the Persian Empire compared to the recent findings, and then the dating also in Egyptian pyramids. So I think that it came from, and then if you know that the Persian Empire overturned the Babylonian Empire, and those were like the seat of power in the world then. So I don't want to believe that is Africa that influenced the Persian Empire this time around. I think it's the other way around. And then looking at the Islamic conquest, and then also the migration, like say the Arab move into Northern Africa, resettling there, and then claiming the lands. I strongly feel that it wasn't the other way around. I feel that it came from the Persian Empire, and then as the empires were breaking and forming new worlds and all that, eventually came into Africa. And you know that, you and I know that even in more recent time, the northern part of Africa claims that they are part of the Arab world, not Africa. They don't claim that they are part of Africa. Most times they say that they are part of the Arab world. So it's not, I don't see it is from Africa to Arab. I see it from the Persian Empire, because if you really look at it, sorry, I might need to bring the Jewish history into this, or will I say the Christian history. If you remember, King Nebuchadnezzar had a dream, and then he started with the gold head, the silver bust, and the folded arms. Then you had the bronze laps, and then the iron mixed with clay legs and feet. So he actually started with the Babylonian Empire, the biggest empire in the world then. And then when Cyprus came in, the Babylonian Empire broke down and Persia took over. And then after Persia, you had the Greek, the Roman Empire. And then after that, you now have the New World, which we are now talking about and all that. So I strongly feel that if it's dated back to the Persian Empire, then actually it flows from the top, or will I say from the side, down into Africa. That's what I would say, because in all of this story, Egypt used to be a world power before Babylon, but that's not dated in that chronology that King Nebuchadnezzar had that dream. Egypt was not said in that. So that's what I would say to it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anu. But I mean, knowing that, it's been found amongst the Egyptian pyramids buried with pharaohs, that's your hypothesis may become shaky, and due to the fact that the material used in making it is also something that can be gotten on the River Nile. It also anyway at the end of the day, it boils down to who told the story first and who but I think it's to be an interesting angle to really look at and see how and where it was first used.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, that's true. On the second thought, in terms of the Egyptian pyramid, but you know that the influence of the Babylonian. I don't know if you have watched this movie 300. It might not be totally historically correct, but if you remember the way the Persian army was in terms of the power, the influence, and all that, Egypt didn't have mouths. And then I must say that, well, that's a Nigerian English, but I would say that I feel that the influence of the Persian Empire could have influenced Egypt at that time. And that's when maybe the pharaohs now introduced that. I don't think it's the other way. Unfortunately, we don't have so much history about Egypt when it was a world power, as far when the Israelites were slaves there. The stories, it's very limited. Unfortunately, we don't have. I wish we had. But interestingly, you could hear, if you read the biblical account, you hear that Moses was actually trained in the wisdom and the knowledge of Egypt, meaning that they had a rich knowledge base. But what happened to it is what we don't know. And then now you can barely see blacks in Egypt now. They are mostly Arabs. I remember recently there was a movie that they did. Cleopatra was a black, and there was an opera that no, they are not blacks, they are Arabs. So what do we say? So that's why I'm leaning more towards the Persian origin than more of the Egyptian origin. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Ano, and thank you, Mano, for bringing that question up. I think I will also agree with Anu. I think it was first a Persian instrument before it came to Africa, because when you look at this the physical attributes for Persian instruments, it has a little bit of both side. It has no mouthpiece with what we see with the Egyptian nail, and then same amount of finger holes and a thumb hole as we see for the Turkish nail. So, and also when you look at the playing technique for the Persian nail, it has interdental embouchure, meaning that you have to place it, on your teeth to play the instruments. Whereas for the Egyptian ney and also the one from Turkey, the playing technique is actually maybe the same, just that there's a difference in the use of mouthpiece for the Turkish ney. So I think I also agree with on that origin. So thank you again for that.